Nope.
All right, okay, we'll just approve it by consensus. That's done. The adoption of the minutes. Does everybody have a chance to run through those? For accurate representation.
Always.
Perfect.
Always perfect. Yeah. Anybody have an issue, any omissions, anything, anybody like that in there?
No.
Once, twice, okay, by consensus, again, thank you very much. Public comments? No comments? Robin, you wanna go?
Yeah, I do.
Okay,
I wrote a few things down,
all right,
and this is with all due respect to the committee.
yeah,
Some observations and concerns
all right,
regarding the new comments for proposal.
Yeah.
I attended the last mayor's standing committee on community lands meeting,
correct,
where this proposal was brought to the committee. I'm here because I want to see our municipality provide housing to those who need it, and that the municipality and partners get these big items right. Regarding the new commons development proposal, generally I support the need for project proposals such as this and understand its commendable intentions. However, New Commons is a type of real estate developer. Social real estate developments are still multi-million-dollar investments with a different type of community buy-in. Social nonprofit development requires extensive local community and municipal commitment to managing considerable long-term socially responsible aspects not well explained in this proposal. Social real estate development is a much different commitment than for-profit development. This social commitment structure and municipal planning infrastructure is not necessarily in place on Bowen and or in very limited ways. A concern I have with that delegation, that it came to this committee rather than to the mayor and council and to the community. And in terms of engagement within the proposal itself, New Commons Development suggests they're not in the business of planning, but the development of affordable community assets supported by the municipality. What does that mean in terms of planning? NCD and Birch are relatively new organizations demonstrating, a limited short-term track record. The director of Birch is the chair of the Municipal Housing Advisory Committee. It looks like the municipality is promoting this proposal based on Birch's affiliation with the municipality, not directly to a partnership. That's my opinion. The proposal also states the proponents want the municipality to not consider other proposals or planning processes while they undertake their exercise of 12 months or to completion. What does this mean in relation to municipal planning and development of the community lands? An additional related concern I have is vetting of proponents involved with housing and development of housing on Bowen. A concern is the municipality and its committees follow guidelines for requests for proposals, RFPs, on community lands that avoid circumnavigating a fair community proposal process, particularly when they are not community-driven projects. The municipality seems to be exclusively privileging this project proposal without due process and community vetting. I think the community should have the opportunity to be involved in that process. Lastly, these concerns with this proposal translate to similar concerns with future development of our community lands, as well as the Metro Vancouver EOI, and the Housing Advisory Committee in Birch are also involved in decision-making around their access to funding and proposals for housing on Bowen. This denotes the same concern. Are these projects and proposals involved with the necessary community input? Thanks for your time, and stay healthy.
Yeah, thanks, Robin. I think a lot of your questions will be answered very, very shortly. Rob?
I might just say a couple of things then. The reason why we came with the New Commons proposal was because, and I do wear two hats, I wear multiple hats, from Birch, being the Housing Advisory Chair, all of that kind of thing, is I'm out there. I'm at these conferences, I'm meeting people, I'm making connections. I thought this was a fantastic connection, and it's something that I brought to the community to say, hey, there's people out there, there's resources out there, we can do something together. So that's where it came from, that's what I was driven by, and I think at this point, hopefully it was reiterated in our last conversation, it's very wide open. There's no, the proposal was simply a starting point in terms of community engagement, in terms of what the involvement is. It's very open to what the municipality wants, council and mayor, planning wants. It's just simply a, hey, there's resources out there, can we form a team and start working on something together to get something done? That's really where we're coming from.
Thank you, Rob.
I fully understand that.
Yeah, perfect.
That's aside from my comments.
Understood. Okay, so like I said, I think you'll get some satisfaction of where we're going with this thing. Okay, so that's it for the public comments then, and business arising from the minutes. Dion White, New Commons Development, Area 1, Lot 1, and that goes to me. So, what happened at that meeting, and it was a little bit inconclusive at the end. I think we did send a recommendation to council saying, this is something we'd like to investigate, as it were. So it went to council, and council did not bounce it back to the mayor's stand committee. They sent it on to staff to have a look at it and that sort of thing, and see if the timing was right for something like that to happen. If we were ready for it or whatever. So then we got together, and I'm trying to remember who was at the meeting. Were you there, David, at that meeting, the New Commons one with staff?
No.
I think Raj, you were there?
I weren't there, the staff one, no.
So definitely Dennis was there, you were there.
Sorry, Gary, so this was, when the committee last talked about it, it was just deferred to a future discussion of this committee. It was just
all I know is we got together, and it was either with Patrick or Glenn,
Yeah.
and discussed the whole thing, and it was felt that we would not be going down that road with Cove Commons at this time.
Yeah, so I think that was only the staff.
That was the staff.
Patrick starting.
Yes.
And getting a handle of our servicing capacity and servicing constraints.
Correct.
That we'd say it's premature at this point to look at a detailed design planning for Area 1 until he has a better sense of that.
Yeah.
And I know we're looking to talk about that more in the close, but but he's feeling like he has things underway, but he's several months out, to say.
Yeah, the feeling was it was premature to enter into any kind of a relationship at this point in time with Cove Commons. The two things, and also the housing survey, we'd like to get a handle on that and see when that comes back, which should be around mid-month. Do you think, Dan?
Yeah, it's still scheduled for March 23rd for
Yeah.
the draft report to come to
Yeah.
council.
So basically, we just sort of kicked it down the road, and we can make a decision when we get all the rest of the information. There's another piece of it, which is, looking at the infrastructure and the servicing of the community lands before we move forward. Because it was generally felt that there's no point in going ahead piecemeal again. And let's get a direction, let's get all the information we need, the infrastructure, the sewer, the water, everything, what it looks like, what we're gonna service, how we're gonna service it, and then go on from there. So that's pretty much where we're at now. So until we get all this information back, we won't be dealing with the New Commons at this point in time. So that's, I don't know, has anybody got anything to add on that?
Has that been communicated to the folks at the
New Commons? No, it has not, because I wanted to break into the committee here and see if there's any comments coming back from the committee.
I think that's a good call.
Yeah,
Just wait until we've got a clearer sense. I don't know if they will still be there
yeah.
when we have a clearer sense, but
It was definitely felt that it was just premature at this time to dig into it. Maybe, you know, the concept might be good in the future, we can revisit it after we get all the information and then we can take it from there. So that's about all I've got. Anything else on that, Dan, that you want to add?
Is there an action associated with, will you be?
I will communicate with Dion Wade.
I think just the other piece I had is still from my end in terms of need for some sort of almost like municipal led planning or like visioning, I guess maybe more so for the area one of lot one, in terms of identifying like a council vision or council direction that maybe could come from this committee or through, you know, like if it's a priority for planning to do the background and some of the consultation on it in terms of desired development of area one. So in terms of like if we get council direction to say our vision for area one is for it to be a residential area versus is it for it to be a mixed use area or a light industrial area, or and there's some of that like servicing plays into that and also can inform, but if we decide, okay, well, we're looking at housing there, and then we can look at, okay, what's feasible for housing versus we're looking at it to be a light industrial area. It's different.
I thought maybe also the way you look at how big is a block of one
Yes.
type of housing. Like
Yeah,
for instance,
absolutely.
maybe you can
Yeah.
have the same amount of housing, but more dispersed in a larger area of lot one, and it would have something to do with phasing as well. I mean, you can't necessarily build everything at the same time
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
So then, and I think that takes a bit of thought, but the general idea that something like that would work. But I also found it a little bit strange that, although I don't think it's a bad idea, but I found it a bit strange that you don't really know how it fits in. It is kind of the same as what you were saying.
Mhm.
And then I also thought that that idea, and I know that Robin thought about it too, is to have that kind of phased approach, not just for mixing it, but also for leaving parcels in between, and possibly having it combined with temporary septic, as in a way what
Yeah.
towns do.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So
Well,
that
these
you
are
can
all
have-
things that'll come out of the servicing.
Yeah, I mean, actually
Request.
result in a more varied neighborhood, and also
Yeah.
something that maybe allows more flexibility for the future.
Yeah, and I think that's just a really good basis for us to start with. I don't think, the original intent was start to develop, started picking pieces here and there and saying, okay, well, this is gonna be this and this is gonna be that, which I still think is a good idea to go there eventually, but I don't think if we don't have the base and the infrastructure settled out, I don't think we can go there.
But it also, it's also the type of form of housing. And
Yeah.
For example, which topography is the most suitable for which type of residential?
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
Like,
Yeah.
because there is a cost to the steepness, and if you need more density of parking and something that's more flat would work better.
Yeah.
But I don't think it has to be like a huge, very long exercise, but to kind of take the whole land and say, from these are the different, what do you call it, the potential, like from a.
Yes, in these
Just
different areas, yeah.
from a narrowness, from an access point of view, from a
Yeah.
topography point of view, from a surfacing point of view, and then see from what, like how would you phase it and what are council's priorities, and then take it from there.
And then, like I say, the other thing is the housing survey will hopefully identify our requirements for right now, or the near future anyway. I mean, this is why we're doing it, to see where we're lacking. And I think we're not gonna end up putting a whole bunch of single-family homes in there, that's for sure. It's gonna be a mix of something else, yeah, that's.
It was my understanding that they were going to do that work and provide us with information. Because of all those questions, it's something that they were going to give us some light about how it would best divide up and what you could do here with various options and that sort of thing. and look into the servicing options and that sort of thing. And that's sort of why I was in favor of it to begin with, because it was, we're freezing it for a year, but, you know, a year is not a long period of time, and I don't see a whole bunch of people in this coming year who are going to be jumping in there and wanting to do something. And it was going to help us better understand that land and how it might develop. And because that's what they do. And we can take that, you know, and then it becomes our information about how to develop that land. So I'm a little concerned we're trying to get in there and sort of try and solve all these little individual problems when that's really what they're going to be doing, is making recommendations to us.
Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
I have sort of a similar point of view. When you look at their proposals, that, you know, phase 2 was kind of looking at it the way we're describing at this table. I do recognize there's initial work we have to do.
Yeah,
Municipality has to do in terms of where our systems are, our infrastructure systems are. But, you know, once we've done that work, and we
Well,
hopefully
you know, once we get that, and that's exactly what we're gonna do, and once we get that part of it, and once we get, you know, the housing survey and a few other things, then we can sort of pull a direction and then revisit it.
So that's what I'm hoping that we will be able to do.
Well, and if we do, there'll be lots of public consultation, and then there'll be,
I mean, they describe that in their process.
yeah, and we'll see how that goes. Daniel, what do you think the time frame is on this? Do you have any idea?
I think Patrick is talking about like 4 months
Yeah, okay.
in terms of him getting a better handle on
Yeah.
servicing in general. What's that?
Yeah,
So I think the summer, fall.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think you're right, in terms of the new commons proposal. Like, I think definitely I see like, you know, it's almost the steps 3, the like site specific stuff is almost like the expertise they would bring.
Yes.
Is saying, okay, let's look at actually on area 1, you know, how best would it be laid out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I see that as valuable, but almost, I think we need to do the background work of like setting the stage of saying
Yeah.
like, this is what we want to see and these are the realities downstream of it. I think
Yeah, they would be good from the development perspective,
Yeah.
how to develop the land, and of course, we have some expertise in this group also, but I think as far as the infrastructure and everything else, and our part of it,
Yeah.
I think we've got to get that organized before we go forward.
So I say, if we can be able to say, you know, based on the housing assessment and our survey and stuff and whatever,
Yeah.
we would like to see family-oriented housing in this part of it, or,
Yeah.
you know, whatever it is, and they could say, okay, we've looked at it and we think it would be best done in townhouses here, or something.
Yeah.
But then looked at the site specific.
Yeah, and once we get to that point, I mean, we can bring it back here, and then we can decide, and, you know, probably, either we put it out for, you know, we could put it out for an expression of interest, I don't know. Problem is, an expression of interest, they were gonna come in at no cost, which is gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
And anyway, so we'll have that conversation again once we get there, but I think it's probably, like you say, it's gonna be summertime before we can re-look at that.
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything else on that?
Is there any kind of visioning happening?
Any kind of what?
So the action is for Gary to follow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm following up with
No.
Dion.
But then a second action could be then, when we've got our needs assessment done, we need to then have our own sort of session here to say, that's what Anthony's just saying, okay, well,
Like an envision
Yeah.
exercise?
it's telling us this, what are we gonna do about what it's telling us?
Yeah, well, exactly, and at that time, it's gonna open up a different discussion, and, you know, and how we go forward from that point is decided, I think.
It's about what you were saying, write down another kind of vision statement, and then how does the affordable housing components fit into that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just, it was felt that we should be further down the road before we engage them, if indeed we are going to engage them. Okay, so we're gonna move on to 4.2, which is lot 2 of the community lands, the access. So that's going on to Patrick, / Daniel.
Yeah. So this came from the Mayor's Standing Committee, went to council in end of January, and so council at that meeting approved investigation of Metro Vancouver Parks to allow access to lot 2. And direct staff to provide a report regarding all possible accesses to lot 2. So what is in your package of 4 scenarios that Dion actually put together in, I believe like early January.
That's awesome.
So he looked at sort of, when you look on a map at the lot 2, and you sort of say, what are the logical ways to get in? And he basically sketched the 4 of them out. He didn't do like costing necessarily associated with that. I sort of asked him some follow-up. But what he gave was like,
excuse me.
even when you look
Do you
at,
guys need this in color?
No.
No?
Just need to be able to
you
read
can
this
see
tiny.
roughly like, okay, what's the cut volume, what's the fill volume, the net volume of each of the approaches. So you see like coming in by, like across Metro Vancouver Parks next to the school, like has to cut 515 cubic meters, or a net of 362 cubic meters versus coming in.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so this is, let's just,
So
I have a hard time
Sure.
figuring out where these all work.
Sure. So I'll go through them based on the agenda.
Okay.
So the first one looks at coming in across essentially Metro Vancouver Park land. And is where this is
Yeah.
off Mount Gardner Road to come into the back of lot 2. And so he's shown like what a cross section would look like. And then so you can see, and it's a little hard because the scale does like change across the different runs, I believe. But he's saying, it would be roughly net volume 362 cubic meters net of fill, because you would essentially cut some and you'd fill some.
So that is directly along
Yeah,
this line.
that's right along there.
Right along this
Exactly,
line, okay.
The second option that he's outlined is coming in past the site of the community center, so that was essentially continuing the community center
Yes.
access point in and around. And what he hasn't done is then show, okay, how would you then get around the next corner? Like that diagram is essentially to get
Yeah.
into that next part that's zoned for townhouses. And then the third one that he looked at is coming up from Senior Road next to Bowen
Yeah.
Court, with how you essentially switch back to get
It's
to the
about
back.
These graphs.
Yeah, so you can see this one,
Not
the
good.
grade, like I think he's calculated, so yes, it maxes at 15%, which is like what the most steepest we allow.
Yeah.
But it's quite
That's
steep.
That's pretty
Yeah.
steep.
It's a little, car elevator.
That's to give a comparison. That's in White Rock the very maximum for a residential driveway.
Yeah.
Oh, is it really?
It's 1 in 6, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
And then the fourth one is then coming off of Miller Road past Snug Cove House in Bowenport to the back. And so that one, again, you'll see it's like a 15% road that has significant cut. And he said that one would also require retaining walls at the bottom part of it, so you essentially be cutting it into the slope and you have to retain to get to Snug Cove House.
And
So-
that's also through Metro Parkland, is it?
That's on our sliver at the top.
That's
of
our
Lot 2.
66-foot roadway there.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's assuming a retaining wall.
So net volume, sorry, 3,000, 5,000, and I believe this one is, and this is 362, so.
Yeah.
Order of magnitude difference.
Yeah. So based on that and based and also on that council direction is then like our staff approach would be to approach Metro Vancouver Parks for conversation about access to that route and see where we
Yeah.
go. But I mean, the other takeaway I had from it is in terms of debating, Miller Road and Senior Road access. It's like, well, neither of them are great,
No.
right? Short answer, both of them fairly scary to me.
So he didn't pass judgment on these are just basically data.
Yeah. And when Glenn had provided these, he was right about the time Patrick had started. I sat with Patrick and he was like, okay, this is somewhere
Yeah.
here on my list. And I'd asked Glenn for, he did costing as part of that, or if he had like a recommendation,
Yeah.
Because he said these, and I go, okay, that's something. And he said, well, yeah, those two, like the two coming off either Miller Road or
Yeah.
Senior Road, both are not great.
No.
And the easiest is the one over Metro Vancouver, where we don't have the land. So
Well, that's
that was
interesting.
roughly a recommendation.
So the numbers on the vertical numbers on the graph, those are feet up. So like we're coming in at 43 feet and going up to 47 on the Mount Gardner Road one, whereas the other ones are starting around 24. However, this one here is the 45.
It must be, even though, like, he's given the cut volume in cubic meters.
Yeah,
He's given,
but that's not going to be 43 meters, that's for sure.
yeah, it can be 43 meters above. Yeah. So it's in feet, and then he's given the percentage, so.
Yeah.
So he's actually got it inside that
I know,
line.
he's showing it
Would that be
inside.
SD 45?
He's shown it inside the school
Yeah.
district one.
Yeah.
But I know when we had looked, 'cause he's shown it.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna come in a little bit further.
Yeah, because I know when we looked, like, the school board doesn't have, right, there's not room
No,
there,
I
right?
know.
So, but my assumption then would be that it's not hugely different, like if you shift it north by the width of the
Yeah.
road, it's not off.
There's also some bridge work that would have to be
Yeah.
done there apparently, because of the creek.
Yeah,
So that's,
that would add to the thing.
it certainly would.
But it seems like for us, the first step would be, is approaching Metro Vancouver Parks, and if they're interested, you know, then maybe it's more detailed work.
Yeah.
But before I enter into that, see if they're conceptually okay with that concept.
Yeah, and of course, probably the easiest one is right for the community center.
I mean, that's definitely like the easiest to get into the land behind the community center. That's
Yeah.
the easiest way in. How much easier it is to then, you know, make the turn.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
you
kind of a pretty flat land back in there.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it's gonna be issues no matter which way you go, but.
Like essentially you'd be joining, just in the page of the one off Senior Road, essentially you'd be joining the road halfway through this one.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Which
right.
is still steep towards this last part of it, right, it's still showing the steep, so you'd still come in and then you essentially pick up somewhere in here and you'd go from there.
Which one? Oh, you're on this one here,
Sorry.
yeah. Yeah, no, that's exactly right, you disconnect through there, right?
But I'm a bit puzzled because we're, I guess I need to see a topographic map. Because we're at the end of the one going in by the community center, we're 52 feet.
Yeah.
52 feet, whereas on the other one, where the heck are we?
About halfway through it,
Yeah, he's cut this one a lot down. Like you see here, this says 49, but he's got the road at.
Oh, that's what that is.
Yeah, it's like existing.
So, what would be the feeling that we started a conversation with Metro Parks? I mean, he's certainly the guy to do it, I guess.
That's the method, yeah. So that's like, that was our council direction, right, is like,
Yeah.
have to investigate, and it seems like, you know, we've been working, the council's been working for a discussion that should Vancouver Parks, and I think
Yeah.
staff have too, and our hope is to, yeah, but Patrick can hopefully give us, you know, the good person to
Yeah.
have that conversation.
Maybe to put a number in perspective, I happen to know that in West Vancouver, the maximum that you can cut for a single-family home is 600 cubic meters.
Ooh.
So this is less than the maximum for one single family.
Yeah, that's
That gives you an idea, right?
reasonable. Yeah, so let's, basically, I think we can write off the other two from what he's saying, right? The one just off Seniors there, write that one off and write the one off at the far end. We already knew about the one at the far end, right?
Yeah.
We did that work before on it,
Yeah.
that it wasn't gonna be a real cakewalk by any stretch. And so, given that, I mean, I guess we still have to find out, let's say on A and B. I think B, we're gonna build anyway because it's part of the community center, that's gonna mostly go in there anyway. I don't know, I sure don't wanna do it because there's something else going on, which we'll talk about in the closed meeting that wouldn't really fit in with. Do you want to have a motion that the Mayor's Standing Committee recommends that we look into and have started dialogue with Metro Parks, but
I mean,
maybe get through
I was gonna say,
it.
we have that council motion, that's already our motion, is to approve investigation with Metro Vancouver Parks to allow access to Lot 2 of the community land.
Yeah.
So from
Well,
that
it's
point of
already
view,
there.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that was the council motion, and this is essentially,
Yeah.
we're trying to just update the committee and make sure the committee, and to share these images that we've got from Glenn, but,
Yeah.
you know, that's, unless the committee, I think, like, doesn't approve of that, then I think we're okay with that motion.
Well, yeah, I think, the only other thing that somebody mentioned the other day, and I, you know, just throw it out there, but what if you came in one way and went out the other way? I mean,
Yeah,
that just reduces the size of the cut
yeah.
considerably.
And I know I've talked to Glenn,
Yeah,
like I talked to Glenn probably when he started these, so like pre-Patrick. And he said, yeah, it depends on, you know, what the anticipated traffic is and what the development is, but in some regards, it's not easier, because then you've got to have two ways, like,
yeah, that's right.
you know, like if you thought, okay, we'll come in past the community center and out over Metro Parks, well, now you've got to still build the bridge and figure out Metro Parks, and you've got to go this way, and you know, you have to study, like, where's the traffic supposed to come from, and how's it gonna go, and so it's
Yeah,
like, it might be, but
Yeah, I think if you look at it logistically, if you're putting in two entrances, it can't be as cheap as putting one in. Even if
Yeah.
even if it's wider.
yeah,
It would only be maybe beneficial for fire truck access. You know,
Well,
it's
that's-
like a
yeah.
fire needs access,
but not
something.
for, I think it's expected to be more expensive than building one by the road, you know?
Yeah.
And just have bigger equipment and, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I don't, you know, obviously I don't mind for the community center, through the community center part there, whether, you know, that could be connected through but gated. So in an emergency situation,
Right,
you know,
access,
could use it, yeah.
and
And
because
that
we'll,
would make
yeah.
a lot of sense.
What we might, is, you know, the community center route, this beat, is just to get to this next level, and so it doesn't have to, you know, it's more a driveway, like community center goes in,
Yeah.
and then there's a
That's right.
driveway that continues on to whatever's happening here.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
it's separate to the back.
Yes, well, yeah, that could be too. You know, we could, if we just localized the community
Yeah.
center one to say, just this area in here where we have the zoning for the
Yeah.
multiple housing,
Yeah,
multiple unit housing, I think that could also work,
yeah,
rather than open it up to the whole thing. I think
Yeah.
that might be acceptable.
I think what these drawings do is that they give a really good sense of the bind that we're in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy, it's not,
No, but to be able to provide that to Metro
To Metro
Vancouver
Vancouver,
is really
yeah.
valuable.
Yeah.
Look, we're stuck.
Yeah.
yeah, anyway, let's, we'll put that on Patrick when we're talking to him again. And if we have to do a little bit of you know, I don't know if we have to give them some land somewhere else, I think that's usually the way it's gonna work with those guys.
yeah.
But maybe we can carve off a piece of property over on the other side or something, I don't know. That we don't
So-
really need, would be nice.
Is it true that in a way you need both of them, but one of them is only part way to the community center and then with an emergency vehicle link to the west? Is that the plan? It is, right?
Could be, yeah.
It certainly could be. I think coming out of this meeting, which is good, is that we've released the one off of Miller Road, because this is, it sort of was hinging on the Bowen Court and their deal, whether that's still happening. We said, okay, we gotta find out about entrances. So obviously, we've written that one off, and I think we've taken it down to 2.
Yeah.
Which was, you know, part of the goal of getting this work done.
Yeah.
So that's something we can now pursue with Bowen Court if they're still in, you know, if they're still talking about that and a little bit of a land swap over there or whatever. Because if we're not gonna use that land, we might as well give it up, get some half decent land.
Yeah.
Works for them, works for us, maybe it's a win-win. So maybe, I don't know, how does everybody feel about that?
So I'm struggling to understand the one by the community center, the one goes by the community center. I mean, it's going, it's steep, there's no hill.
Well, but it does drop off, it drops off as you're about halfway through the field, and then it starts going down.
Yeah.
You know, it's probably about a 10-foot drop between the middle of the field and what they got here, it's quite significant.
Yeah, I mean, he's
Oh,
got
so this
7
is,
feet now.
okay, all right.
But it says 8%, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a decent slope.
Yeah, that's not bad. I just
I'm
wondered,
surprised.
if it's the same
mindful
scale.
Image of this
Yeah.
top in is
It
not
just seems
any
flat,
percent.
no.
Yeah.
It goes down, but it doesn't seem to go down that
Yeah.
radically, yeah.
And then like they were jaded from unknown, and it's like, right, it's basically it's open, and it's like, oh, I
Yeah.
can walk on it.
Yeah.
I should walk that way from
Anything you can walk up to is flat.
here.
I wonder if we should have some kind of resolution from this, the Mayor Standing Committee that we will pursue the other two entrances into lot 2 and release those other ones. Do you think we should do something like that?
I mean, I'm just looking at the council motion is like to investigate and then to staff to provide a report regarding what possible access is.
Okay, so let's just,
It
yeah,
sounds like that's gonna
okay,
come
well, that's
from
fine
council.
then, it'll be covered in the report.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
But as far as you know, staff is concerned, then you know that how we're feeling.
Yeah.
You don't think that we pursue those other two.
Yeah, I think it's just important to have good access and for fire support and everything else. And so a road that is, maybe it's closed off by the community center and not used
Yeah.
daily,
Yeah,
but
that's good.
to be
available.
available, and we have problems all over the island of just lack of access.
That's right.
One point access, and
Yeah,
we get into some real problems. So thinking this through with some options so that trucks can come from two
Yeah.
different sides to fight fire and all, but then there's a simple circulation route that's always good.
would be available, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's very good. And I think, you know, in hindsight, I know as much as I'd love to protect this road in front of, but let's see how it goes in front of the community center. If it's just open to a small community here, it would certainly be palatable. Because there could be, potentially, there could be 200 units, 300 units back in there eventually. And that would be way too much in front of the community center. Then we'd have to do an overpass. Or a tunnel.
And the
Or a tunnel.
relief.
Yeah.
Holding up for a catapult.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's great. Thank you, Patrick. Yeah. Patrick's last one. Okay, so you'll proceed on that. So council referrals, and it's Metro Vancouver EOI.
Put you on that.
Okay.
And that's over to you, Dion. Yep.
Yeah, so, I'm not sure,
It's an
then,
interesting
but so you have a look at the report, you see what's going on with Metro Vancouver?
Well, you explained it to me briefly.
Yeah.
And that's something for I missed the last meeting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I wasn't in the
we said
last
anything
meeting, so
about
not
that.
exactly
Yeah,
what
there
was
wasn't
about
anything.
I don't think there was anything at the last meeting.
And I sat down with you once in the ferry, and you gave me a very long.
Did I?
So go for it.
Okay, so I can give you both a copy of Metro Vancouver's 10-year housing plan. And so what Metro Vancouver has done is it's got several approaches recognizes that we have an enormous need for affordable housing within the region. And so one of their approaches to build new affordable housing is to work with the municipalities and see who's got some vacant land and got a possible development, and that they'll partner with that municipality. So they put an expression of interest out, and we've been looking at responding to that. One of the issues was, we thought, okay, the Birch lands were a good opportunity because they've already started and they could continue and work with Metro Vancouver. So we had a conversation with Birch and with Metro Vancouver, and the thing is, though, Metro doesn't, while they want to partner with the municipalities, they don't want to complicate a situation where they're working with a nonprofit as well. Basically, they would take it and they would do it. So we had a conversation with Birch, and are you interested in Metro Vancouver basically taking over your project? And Birch felt, yes, that's a way to get affordable housing in Sturcove faster than, or the fastest possible way.
Right.
So we then looked, we had a meeting with Robin and Daniel and Maureen and I, and Robin's consultant on the phone. We're sort of working together with Metro Vancouver on this and looking at what the next steps would be. And the next steps are for Robin to continue doing what she's doing to develop the project, and for us to submit this response to the EOI. And then kind of see what comes of it. It's a competitive process. We have to get the submission in by April 3rd.
Oh, good.
Yes, so Daniel's been working on it already. And so I've got, and I made some copies of this. This is what we had at the meeting. And this is a note from Laurel Cowan, who is the head of this process with Metro Vancouver. And this is a report that just went to the Housing Committee and on the nature of the EOI, how people will respond and how it will be marked. And so if you flip to this page right here, you'll see a table.
David, could Steph have a copy to
Yeah,
refer
here you
to?
go. I made a few copies, and I guess I left one at the machine.
You need one.
No, more in the seat. Yeah.
Is it on the council agenda? No.
No.
It's from
So if you
Metro
can see,
Vancouver Council report.
and Daniel's seen this as well, but if you look at the criteria, here's what they're going to judge the response to the OI based on. So, and then you can see the marks down that side. So development potential, the number of units, well, we're pretty small. We're, what, 27, something like that? Maybe just under 30, so we're pretty small. Development readiness, well, pretty good. But there are some issues there about parking relaxations, variances. They're looking for 4 stories, so we've got issue around that. And probably we'd be happy to have a variance on parking, but we haven't done that. And then the site readiness, bare land, we do pretty well in there. Category tenant livability, walking distance to amenities, I mean, couldn't get better. And to frequent transit, well, the bus is right there. The Metro Vancouver frequent transit is actually a name of, those B lines and things like that.
Yeah.
But we're right attached to the ferry and the 257. We could probably argue that we're pretty good on that. Opportunities to support tenant relocation from other developments? No, because there's none nearby. And then municipal actions, and this is something we could talk about now. Municipal fee reductions, financial contributions, waiving or reducing municipal portion of DCCs, CACs, permit application fees, off-site servicing, financial grants, and so on. So we could talk about that a bit. And then final, regional equity. Presence of existing Metro Vancouver housing, there's nothing west of, to the east of the Lionsgate, well to the east of the Lionsgate Bridge, or Capilano. I don't know where the first Metro Vancouver one is, but it's in North Van and somewhere along
It's Lower Lonsdale.
Lower Lonsdale, there's
And that's
somewhere
the
out there.
only
So
one in
from
North
a regional equity perspective,
Yeah.
we do very well.
Yeah.
We do very well. There is nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing over in this end of the road at all. So that's the sort of the scoring thing. And so what we could look at in this meeting is to discuss, well, is there any recommendation we want to make towards the municipality? And now, in terms of, like Daniel can help us here in terms of some of these municipal actions. Like
We don't have DCC.
No, we don't have DCCs, but we do have connection
Yeah.
charges.
And we have a sewer expansion policy
Yeah.
for the Miller Road line and lift station, and it names Birch as one of the, that site
Yeah.
is one of the things that we contribute. And I believe it's, my notes here, it's like $120,000 towards that line.
Significant.
And I would not recommend waiving that from the perspective of the position that sewer is in.
We recognize.
They need that funding to essentially fund needed works.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all we have to do is come up with an argument why we can't do it, as much as we'd like to, and
Yeah.
we've done it in the past. We're not in a position, I don't think we're in a position to help them out. We'll help them out where we can, and I think there's some other areas where it might be a little bit more amenable to, stretching the rules, but.
I think one of the things that, well, just first of all, it was a very positive meeting.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
The discussion
Yeah.
had momentum, and they were surprised by how far along the project was and really pleased. The amount of work that Birch has done or is intending to do was significantly defray, my understanding, significantly defray some of the costs that they might incur. Because you would be able to hand over certain kinds of documents related to the site. So holding ground on the sewer connection makes sense to me, given that they really are getting a project that is very far along. And their intent with this new initiative is to get as much housing built as quickly as they can. And there's now a funding base through the Metro Vancouver budget plan, and many of their existing, they have 10,000 odd units of housing in Metro Vancouver, and many of those housing units are either their mortgages have just paid off, or they're coming on the streams so that the mortgages aren't going to be there anymore, and the rents are going to be available to put back into the system and build more. There's an astonishing figure in here somewhere about just how much money they're talking about. This is on page 6.
Okay, so you wait 25 years, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it says, to support this plan, Metro Vancouver Housing will invest $190 million in affordable housing over the next 10 years.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
lot.
We'll take a piece
So
of it,
that's from paying off their
Yeah.
mortgages and looking at redevelopment, but also they're getting $4 million of new tax money every year through Metro Vancouver. We all agreed to it, and that's going directly to this particular piece, and then they use that,
Yeah,
to
the
leverage
leverage,
with
right, yeah.
leverage with the feds and the
Yeah.
projects.
So when you wait to hear about DCCs, the DCCs are supposed to support it, right? So if Bowen would have had DCCs, then that money would have supported a facility like Burge,
Yeah.
right? But it's
Yeah.
not the other way around.
True,
So-
yeah.
So then I guess the question is that this came up for many years, right?
Yeah.
And so why does Bowen Island not have the development cost charges? Because then nobody would build anything, or is it because the?
Yeah, I mean, like, DCCs fund like certain things, right? They can fund like
Amenities,
sewer
yeah.
and water, they can't fund amenities.
I thought they could afford it. I thought that they could is
Like just
fund
going to
amenities,
general
but they
revenue.
have to be local. They have to have a direct relationship to the project.
I mean, I think
Yes.
you might be thinking, yeah, I mean,
It cannot be in another part of the island. It cannot be seen as just revenue, general revenue. It has to benefit the adjacent neighborhoods. That's what I thought about.
That's my
With DCCs.
You've talked about community amenity
yeah.
charges and made a distinction
Yeah.
between the two.
Oh, yeah, there's.
Community amenity or like, you know, rezoning charges, development cost charges are like, there's mandated certain things you can do. You have to have a bylaw that's like approved by the ministry, and it's funding like water and sewer and parks. And I think you can do park improvement, but for a while it was just park, like land acquisition. And in the past, like Urban Systems did a report before my time here about DCCs in Sun Cove, but some of their finding was like our rate of growth was such that it almost didn't make sense. Like a DCC, you go, okay, in 10 years, we're gonna grow this many units, and it's gonna cost this much for us to expand the system, and so everybody's gonna pay, you know, the percent of that. Well, our growth rate is, you know, at the time when they did it, 2 units a year, 3 units a year, right? You go over 10 years and you're like, well, that's not very much money, you can't do anything with it anyways. And what we've done instead traditionally in subdivisions is like the developer just pays for it. So DCCs would say we put in the infrastructure, you know, we would put in the infrastructure and all the people would pay for it at the time. Instead, we tended to go, when a subdivision goes in, they put in the infrastructure and then we take it over. So we're not interested in like costing it out beforehand and collecting money over time to do it. We just say, if you're gonna do your subdivision, you put in the infrastructure. So that's a thing. DCC overview.
I'm a bit puzzled by that, to be honest, because I thought that DCCs can fund, let's for instance,
Community center.
yeah, and primary
Public amenities.
daycares,
Yeah.
spaces, or park
So,
improvements.
Yeah,
or-
so I mean, they can do park improvements. So we have a,
We have amenity bonusing, which only sort of,
Yeah, but
it gets triggered on rezoning.
Yeah, but it's more negotiated, right?
yeah,
It's-
so DCCs can go do for constructing, altering, or expanding sewerage, water, drainage, highway facilities, providing and improving parkland.
That's
from local government?
That's the local government act. That's what DCCs can fund.
Maybe with the Vancouver charter?
Yeah,
be
see,
different?
Vancouver has more,
Yeah.
yeah. So they have dwelling cost levies and they have entirely different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Structure, okay.
It's one other thing I should have mentioned in the introduction, and one other thing I need to mention as well, is that what we see from the work that Birch has done, Birch is actually giving us something quite amazing here, because they're basically giving up their project.
Yeah.
And Metro was very impressed with Birch in the call, and is happy to work with them in a way, but, you know, they have their own staff, they'll do stuff. So one of the things that Birch was thinking, and I think this is absolutely fair, is that by being involved peripherally in this process, they'll be learning a whole lot, and we'll be able to apply that to their next project, which is then coming back to what we talked about a little while ago about Lot 1. So that's one of the reasons that I want us to make sure that we are also thinking about Lot 1 in our work, because I think it's fair to Birch to say that, you know, what they're doing for us is a tremendous gift to the municipality, and that
Yeah,
we need
absolutely.
to recognize.
So David, when you spoke with me on the ferry, which was
Yeah.
quite a while ago, right?
Yeah.
So the numbers may have changed. Because I remember you told me that the amount of funding available was fairly modest.
Yes.
And if you would divide it by all the people that would apply.
That's right.
Yeah, I thought there was,
It would be all
originally there was
right?
only about 10 million bucks or something.
Yeah, well, the 4 million of new money.
Yeah.
And then there's the money that's part of Metro Vancouver's.
So if they take over Birch, what does it mean then from a financial point of view? Like how much would they actually be able to contribute to the project?
We don't know. We
Oh, you
don't
don't
know. But they'll, I mean,
But if they take
They're
over,
gonna
if
be
Birch lets
leveraging-
it go, right? I
Pardon?
mean, if Birch says when we step out of it, what does that mean? Because then, what is the scope of services that Metro Vancouver would provide?
Yeah, I just went, what is the arrangement
If
here?
they
This
take
is what
over
I'm
the
wondering.
project, what does it really mean? That's what's.
And where?
they have experience in doing this sort of thing, and they know how to make it, you know, move quickly, and they will work with the other governments, leveraging other governments' funds.
Yeah, but are they then the owner, or are they the?
Yes,
what are
the
they?
owner.
Oh, they will be the owner.
And they will manage it, and
They
manage
will
it?
manage it. That's
Oh,
another
okay.
important thing.
So they are an owner, basically,
They are
and
an
they
owner.
hire consultants,
That's right.
you know, like Walter, for instance, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, their goal is to develop and manage
Yeah,
the
develop and
housing.
manage. Yeah.
And do they put any real money in the projects itself, or is it more their services?
A blend of money and services. We don't have any details about that.
And would they take responsibility for, like,
Yes.
to which degree would they, if you're an owner, now you're responsible for the project, right?
Yes, that's right.
So you kind of guarantee that you're gonna finish it.
Yes.
Well, that's nice to know.
Yeah.
That actually makes a big
Yeah.
difference.
Yes.
And
So
it's
they
a
have to
huge
commit,
difference.
I
and
don't know why they're doing it.
if they're gonna, no, well, if they
It's
have.
a lot of
access-
work.
Yeah, but if they have access to more money, in the end, they just have to
Yeah.
show up with the money, because they guarantee that they're gonna finish the project, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
The other
Yeah,
thing,
right? Isn't it?
the other thing that's really important is the needs that Metro was impressed with, and that's the needs analysis that is almost done.
Mhm.
And so they want to make sure that whatever is being designed here works with the needs that have been identified. So we're ahead of all kinds of people in the work that Birch has done, but also in getting the needs analysis.
But they can't afford to fail, I mean, they can't pull out
That's correct.
something.
They can't afford to fail.
You're just like.
Yeah, I wanna know that.
They don't fail.
So then
In
it's
this
a
day and age,
no-brainer.
in this day and age, who knows, eh? The one thing that's kind of interesting is the land.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, that's been a big part of the Birch project, is our dedication of the land to Birch. So now they end up with the land, they become the landowners.
So at least, they're
Yeah.
recognized it will be at least.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So we'd have to do,
Okay.
that would be part of the deal, we'd figure out how we have to move, transfer the lease.
Yeah.
But we haven't completed the lease
No,
yet.
the land is not subdivided
It's
yet.
not subdivided.
No,
So
that's
we
right.
have an agreement to lease the land.
Yeah,
first.
right.
Yeah.
So we would instead be looking to
Yeah.
do something.
But you can be an owner of the project and not of the land, it is normal, right?
It would,
Yeah.
well, the leasee will now become Metro Vancouver,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, which is an interesting sort of,
The
you know,
leasing
like you
sort
say,
of
though, they can't afford to
surplus lands
fail.
back.
They can't afford to fail, and they have resources to,
Yeah.
you know, to carry on, which is great thing.
But one of the other parts is also managing the project. Like they have experience managing projects, and in conversations with Robin, we need to have someone manage the project.
Yeah,
You know, we don't have the on-island expertise to manage something like that.
sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah.
That sounds too good to me, actually. That's
That's
the problem I have. That's the problem I have. Yeah.
that's a bit of a double-edged sword, isn't it, though?
Well, I don't know if it is.
Why,
It's-
you can look at their past projects. There's
Well, I have
tons
looked
of
at their past
projects
projects,
Excuse
that-
me.
Yeah, we're gonna,
I'm just saying,
yeah,
it's something to consider.
thank
It's not
you.
gonna be a community project.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, so, so what do you want to see, the motion here?
This can hold for
Yeah,
one
the
second. When you
recommendation.
said it's not a community
Fritz,
project.
It's okay.
We don't
you're not
engage
supposed to speak.
What?
We don't engage.
Oh, I just found it
Yeah.
interesting because like there was some significance in that last sentence of that. Like, is it like Metro Vancouver is too much power or so, or like you lose control? Is that what it is? Or?
Well, yeah, you lose control, but they are still a leasing, we still own the property.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't change.
Right.
Part of I think our conversation with, like, so this is a competitive project, so
Yeah.
process, we put it in, select it, and part of it would be negotiating lease terms. And
Yeah.
presumably, you know, when I've drafted it, is that we would still be looking for a housing agreement as part of it, that we would work out together, but would set out, like, you know, how it's managed and what our expectations are that it be affordable, so we put it on and say, well, it has to be an affordable housing project. Yeah, and some of those details, like I know, so like, you know, BC housing projects, we'll say they'll go in, but they'll use like the BC housing wait list, so that's who the tenants will be, it's like who's registered on the BC housing wait list.
Yeah. Okay.
As opposed to like housing agreements we've put on projects here, where we've said priorities to Bowen Island residents.
criteria.
So that would be like the sort of discussion I think we would be having with them.
And their framework is 30% rent-based income, and then the rest of it is below low to moderate income. So it's not a mix of high-end with low-end or anything like that. It's all moderate to lower income. Yeah.
And one of the nice things about the EOI is that they expect to be getting back to the applicants by May,
Yeah.
so it's quick.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then the next week we don't, if they say no, then we, okay, we're continuing, like Birch is continuing, then
Yeah.
that was a nice
Yeah.
clarity.
Yeah, so we're not going
Yeah.
to lose any time by
Yeah.
doing this.
Yeah, so I guess,
So it says referring the report to the committee for recommended actions that could strengthen the application. Is the goal here.
So what I'm, yes, I mean, Daniel can help here, any suggestions in terms of tricky points or sticky points that might help us in the recommendation, but two obvious ones that we need to consider are the variance of four stories. The variance of 4 stories and reducing the parking requirements. Those are some things that Robin would be looking for.
Yeah.
And so we would need to make some, you know, how do we do that by April 3rd, make some sort of a statement about that? And we talked about, Maureen and I talked about this a little bit, it's some sort of a letter from council, I'm not sure how.
Yeah, because
that's a tough one, because if we
It
were,
has to come before council.
you know, we all think, and this committee has always said that, you know, we should be going towards 4 stories, there's no question about it.
Yeah.
And, you know, obviously Metro's coming back and they say, you know, 4 stories is the only way it can work.
They didn't say that.
No, they didn't say that, but Robin has said that.
But, you know, I don't think there's any question we have to densify.
Yeah,
You know, we don't have the amount of land we need to just sprawl it everywhere, so
yeah.
eventually we have to densify, and I don't, how would you see that going forward?
I know, because so when I look at, you know, the second point on their scoring, development readiness, no need for subdivision or variance, et cetera. So we're gonna be saying, well, it's currently being subdivided, you know, we anticipate that closing before it's gonna be an issue. And then we would be saying, well, we anticipate the need for variance, right? And so how is that, you know, if we wanna get 10 on this, 10 points,
Yeah.
right? How do we do that?
So
And it's like, we could, you know, we could say, oh, well, we'll just, like, you know, municipality's landowner will initiate a variance application for it. But it gets a little abstract if we're just saying, okay, on this lot, you just don't need parking, you need just this many numbers of parking, but we don't know yet what the building's gonna be, or do we assume based on Birch's outline, okay, this,
Yeah.
you know, we'll reduce the parking and we'll increase the height, but it seems a little
So,
premature.
so like there is, in every zoning schedule, always says that the maximum height is 9 meters, right? That's
Yeah. Correct, yeah.
consistent. Now, is that in the OCP island-wide, or is that
No, see,
island-wide in every zoning schedule?
It's in the zoning schedule.
So
there is-
also for, in lot 3, it's in the zoning schedule? or
Yeah,
not?
yes,
Ah, let's do that.
yes. So you can vary it by a development variance permit.
And
Can
so,
vary it.
yeah. But then does it have to be changed in the OCP as well?
No.
Is it an OCP?
It's
on
on
the
the
So
OCP?
this is something that, like, when I started, I heard always that there was we weren't allowed 4 stories in the
Yeah.
OCP, and it's not, like, that's not the case. There was one reference in our OCP to increasing height, but it's like, it's very specific in terms of where it's saying 3.5 stories. So, but essentially it would be, and I had it confirmed on the Birch site too, that it would be a variance to increase height and reduce parking.
So with the variance like that,
Yeah.
then it's we're the landowner all around it.
Yeah.
What would the process be like?
So it would be an application, it would be an introduction to council, it would be notice, it would be consideration by
It's a
council.
public process, right? Isn't it? Like it goes to the neighbors and.
Yeah, it goes to everyone with 100 meters and then the paper. But essentially, it's like, how we introduce it at one council meeting, and then a month later comes back for consideration, so.
Yeah.
But if all councillors are in favor, then the council has to hear, but it doesn't have to respond to the concerns.
So,
right?
yeah, like,
we
within
can
a-
actually
you know,
in a
it's
way
like-
guarantee it.
Four councillors can issue a variance permit, but have to consider it and have to
Yes, they
deliberate
hear,
and issue it, right?
it's a hearing, right?
Yeah. So I don't know, like with that one, because I think in the EOI thing, they talk about, municipal commitments to expedite development approvals.
Right.
So maybe we're saying, well, it's anticipated based on the development that's proposed, that it would need a variance, and council would commit to making this, expediting approvals and making it a staff priority, and if that's as far as we can go. And then I would probably point to say, and council has approved other parking reductions in the cove, and point to the area 1 of lot 2 on which had a parking reduction, and saying, okay, there's precedent and council has shown in favor of reducing parking on residential
Yeah, I think
development,
that's
so
about all we can
right?
do.
And that's probably as strongly as I
Yeah.
can flag it, because I can't say, oh, council would love to give you a variance, right?
No.
There's, that's 100% guaranteed, because
Yeah.
it can't be.
So are the buildings on Artisan Square, are they for the bylaw 3 on basement, or are they 4 stories? Because I think some of them are 4 total.
I don't know, like a couple of our zones have a story maximum, so like Snug Cove House has a maximum a height and a maximum number of stories, but most of our zones just have a height. And so we base it on the corners, right, and you get an average grade and you go up and that's the height.
Right.
If people can fit 2 stories in there, or people can 3 stories or 4 stories, well, as long as you hit your height maximum,
Yeah.
you're okay.
I think, and you look at the pub also, I mean, that's
Yeah.
a bit of a stretch because of the land going down and the
Yeah.
average of the land and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And it's the same thing, but that Birch property is the same, pretty much the same.
Yeah, so I mean, essentially, how most of our zones regulate height, and so we have a way to calculate height, and we calculate.
Yeah.
height, and it doesn't talk about
It works,
stories, so
yeah.
it's not a.
But that comment came up in the Snug Cove report that was done by Dialogue about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And it says there's no way any development will happen if it isn't relaxed to 4 stories. So you can actually say that the community is quite aware of it because nothing has happened with that whole plan for 10 years. But I mean, the awareness has been there. So.
Yeah.
I think it has to be worded pretty delicately, that, we would,
Yeah.
we would entertain a development variance for the
Yeah.
4 stories. And obviously we're gonna entertain it.
Yeah.
Passes or not, that's another thing, but we would certainly
Yeah.
take a look at it.
Yeah, and so I think that's what I would point to, is like the commitment to expediting approvals and the past support for, the variances that we anticipate in this development. Yeah, and then the other one is the scoring for municipal actions to contribute to financial viability, talks about, right, municipal fee reductions, financial contributions.
Yeah.
DCCs, I mean, I can say, well, there's no CACs, we're not gonna charge you community amenity contributions for this
Yeah,
project.
and we're not gonna charge you DCC.
We're not gonna charge you DCCs. We are gonna charge you a sewer expansion policy, which is, right, essentially it's a DCC,
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
different, but it's the same thing that you would pay for in a DCC. So, from that point of view,
So, sorry, did you, what's CACs?
community amenity contributions.
Oh, okay, amenity
Right,
contributions.
so we're like, that one, yes, you're
Yeah.
golden.
Yeah, free.
Yeah, another one. You're
We
only too
will
often
not,
on.
we were gonna make you pay $1 million towards the community center, but we're.
Yeah. Permit application fees, I mean, what does that look like in the scale of things? It's pretty, there's not that much.
It's not that much, I mean, it's something we've waived, but more for like other municipal buildings, I'm trying to think.
Yeah,
Like in theory, council would then have to grant it, and so it's a thing that like if our affordable housing fund had money in it, we could use that money to grant to cover building permit fees.
oh, yeah.
Right, so, like in the past, I feel like we've waived it for municipal projects. And actually, were you here when BCC did the daycare expansion? I feel like council waived the building permit fees for
Yeah, but that
their
would be
project.
pretty minimal.
Do you
Yeah.
have to charge building permit application fees? Like, where does it actually say, does it say that in the community?
The building bylaw.
The bylaw, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel like, yeah, council maybe waived it and maybe should have granted, like, done a matching grant for the amount or something.
But what kind of numbers are we talking about anyway?
This is not like, well, I mean, like a house is like a few $1,000, and, but it's by value. So it would be, you know,
But is there a
less than
formula
50,000.
by value?
yeah.
But can council make a special formula for affordable housing? Like if you,
I was gonna say, to make it sound positive, and again, depends on if you're willing to, you could say we're willing to forego the deposits, but we have to charge permit fees or something like that, because typically the deposit is the larger portion of, if it makes it sound positive,
Yeah.
and we don't need the deposit.
I mean, we now have like, yeah.
Anyway, we can only do what we can do.
Yeah.
And I mean, the application can't lie in it.
Yeah.
So, you know, we'll do the best we can. We can make it look a little sloppy in some areas, but
yeah, we just noticed that building permit application fees between municipalities vary hugely. So then, what's the formula? Like, is it based on?
Oh, I mean,
Yeah.
ours is based on construction value.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
but
we
it's a
say-
percentage, right? And
Yeah.
then can you distinguish between use? Like, or, like, is the formula to some degree under the control of council? Or is it a fixed formula that you have to use out of the?
Well, it's in the bylaw, no, it's individual bylaw, it's a local government.
So it's
bylaw.
prescribed in a bylaw.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
did you describe the percentages? I don't believe that, because the construction cost and it seems to vary too much.
No, what I'm
Because
saying,
it
like
means that
our
every-
building bylaw sets the building
It
permit
sets the
fees.
rate, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right. Now, can you vary that rate for different type of projects, or do you have to charge? Like, I just don't know what you can do.
like, could our bylaw in theory say, but if you're an affordable housing project, you pay this rate?
Yeah, you have a fee, but the fee is based on some type of use. And why would you have the same rate for every use? I just not. Do you have to do that, is the question. Like, how much flexibility you have within the fact that you have to charge a building permit application fee?
Well,
Like in terms of, like,
You could
in
charge
terms
we
of.
waive it for all
Sorry,
municipal
Fritz.
stuff.
Fritz, do you mean like in terms of the bylaw that we have, or what a hypothetical bylaw could have in it? I guess is
Well,
what
it
I'm
comes from
confused.
bylaws, but what I'm saying is that, I'm saying is from how do you arrive at the number? Is it just that you take for every project involving the same construction value and you take the same percentage of it?
Well, we take the construction value based on the value
Value.
of construction of that building.
Yeah, and then it's a fixed
Same
rate.
percentage.
And then it's a,
For every
yes,
building.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, okay, so then my question is, do you have to have a fixed rate for every type of building?
Well, I mean, our bylaw has a fixed rate for every type of
Right,
building.
okay.
Hypothetically, could a bylaw not do that? Maybe, I don't know.
Okay.
But we're not going to bylaw before.
Yeah, but we're not gonna do that.
So, let's get back to the question at hand, is whether we apply for this COI. I think we should. Does anybody else have an issue with that? I mean, I
Is that
think
the
it's,
question?
That's not the
The
question.
question is, would give points to strengthen the application, or actions, recommended actions.
I think we've got the direction to respond to this.
Yeah.
It's just make it better, committee.
Yeah.
if
So
you
the-
can.
What can we do to make it better?
So
I
I'm-
was just looking off the agenda here.
Sorry, no, I'm here, it's on,
Oh, you got it.
on there. I didn't word it pretty beautifully on the agenda.
Okay.
So point B,
Recommended actions could strengthen
Yeah.
so I've got one point, which is provide documentation that a variance would most likely be granted to increase height and reduce parking, and that council will make this a staff priority, expedite the approval process, and show evidence of past support.
Sorry, that first point, can you say again?
Provide documentation that a variance would most likely be granted to increase height and reduce parking.
Can you say would be expedited?
And then I say make a staff priority,
Okay.
expedite the approval process, and show evidence of past
Okay.
support.
Um,
No, you want me to reword it?
Yeah,
Expedited is better.
or something that, I just don't want to say that council would say, yes, we will most likely approve this.
Okay, yeah,
It seems a
and-
little-
Okay, so the
So
variance
that's
would
more like,
most, the variance would be, sorry. Variance would be expedited? Get rid of most likely?
I think these conditions are gonna come out of the council meeting.
Yes.
I think we can recommend some and throw it out there and see if it sticks. And council might have some other ideas too.
I like the way Daniel sort of said, council would expedite,
yeah,
and then,
Okay.
so what are the bounds?
Yeah, that's certainly not a cost factor,
Yeah.
you know, certainly expedite.
Expedite the process to,
yeah,
The stream.
the guy says expedited development approvals,
And
and
if
so we would
it's-
say, yes, we will expedite development
Yeah.
approvals.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, but if it's one of the priorities in council's work, what do you call it, your work plan?
Yeah.
I mean, then that's what it is, and if it's one of your priorities, then why wouldn't you support it? Right, so,
So staff's just gonna put this up here.
I mean, yeah,
Sorry, got it.
basically, we're gonna do everything for them that we wouldn't have done for Birch.
yes,
Yeah.
That's,
right.
so,
yeah,
whatever road we're gonna put down there.
yeah.
Okay, there we go. Nope. It's so slow. I've already
Thought we
been
were there.
begging
Thought
for
we were
the
there.
The
computer.
original laptop, like.
It's like at a stage now.
Starting.
So we're looking for a second point, though, in the meantime.
So where are we on the permit application fees?
Here we go.
Oh, here we go.
What about just provide documentation that any variances required would be expedited? Are you comfortable with that, Daniel?
Yeah. I would say any variances and development approvals or something, because that saying would expedite the development permit and the building permit and,
Sorry, what did you say?
And
Development?
permit,
Permits
or development approvals.
approvals,
Because
sorry.
that include, yeah, BPs.
would be expedited.
So do we ditch the decrease height and reduce, leave them out for now?
I think so, because I think that I'll talk about it in that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like, that's something that we would just discuss in terms of.
Yeah, I don't think we wanna be too
specific.
specific because that's the rocks in there.
So this is gone. And do you want,
I think everything after expedited is gone.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Is that it?
beautifully simple. One.
What about, like, where in the EOI would you mention the work that's already being done by Birch? So that,
I think that's kind of development readiness, site readiness. So like I've sort of listed, and I know more are coming, the studies that are being done as part of the
Judy,
subdivision. and already done.
as staff, what have you got to add out there?
Well, I wasn't here for the first part of this night, but maybe it's already been picked up, but I think the obvious thing that we're doing for them is that we have, council has agreed to lease the property for affordable housing at a nominal fee, which
Correct.
is a big thing. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that's already been picked up, but I think that's,
So just confirm that council has agreed to lease the land for a nominal fee?
Okay, so that is a key factor. We do have the land, but it's also gonna be at a very preferable lease rate.
Yeah.
You know, there's no question about that. So that is a key in there, right?
Yeah.
Because they'd be expected just, you know you have the land, but they'd be expecting to maybe pay an exaggerated lease rate on it.
Should this,
I think it's important, or is it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would say it's very significant. Yeah.
I was just gonna ask, should the recommendation read like, community lands recommend, like after that council instruct staff that? Or direct staff, yeah,
To include.
that. That,
Yeah,
all you
sure,
gotta put
that's-
is a that there,
Yeah.
instead of include? Oh, okay, okay, that's good, yeah.
So David, how does this relate to the cost of the project? Like, do they have, like if they look at a project on Bowen and compare it with another municipality, right? Like the cost per unit to build?
Probably higher.
Yeah. So then, is that like, does it go through that process that they try to figure out what the cost is of the project?
The process this is a pretty thin little application form, and they meant to have it simple, and they would shortlist and then do detailed work with the different municipalities. So they then start talking with Daniel and Robin about, okay, well, you know, what have you done here and there, and what's this gonna cost, and all that.
So
sort of
do
stuff.
they require construction cost?
No,
No.
no.
Not
So
at
they
this
do it
point.
themselves, so like
Yes.
Vancouver would do their own
That's right,
diligence and see
right.
what they believe
that's right,
the cost would be.
yeah.
Okay.
And in a sense, it's like we're further ahead because of the work that Birch has done.
So
Whereas like the other
That's-
municipalities would say, you know, oh, we have this lot that's for affordable housing, but we don't know anything, like, you can do it, but we
Yeah.
haven't done any work on it. And it's like, there, you can, you know, design something for it. And I would imagine probably, like Metro Vancouver's response to us will either be
Yeah, thank you, that's
no,
good. Yeah.
or it will be, you're on the short list, and maybe they shortlist more projects than they anticipate going forward, right? And then that's when they do their more detailed stuff, and they go, okay, it's gonna cost them no one, we get this many units, it's gonna cost this much per unit, and we're here, we can do this, and they're gonna have to wait it out. Because Bowen will be more expensive, once it's like, we know it's more expensive to build on Bowen, and they're gonna be, it's gonna be a smaller project maybe than they
Don't
are
put that in
doing
the
other things.
application.
No. But so it's how much the other stuff, and in particular, the like regional equity piece plays in, and we say, we're a smaller one, but you really need something.
But would they
Bowen
like
would
it
be
as
really
a, well, I'm not sure you can call it a pilot project, but as an experimental project on the periphery for smaller communities or so, that somehow you distinguish yourself from the, you know, from the bigger municipalities, that maybe,
Yeah,
I mean, it can actually respond to.
really separate point, so.
Sorry,
Oh, you just, never mind.
yes?
I think that's good.
It's just like highlight, you know, opportunity in smaller municipality, which is kind of just like highlighting the regional
And the
equity.
alignment with the, with our, whatchamacallit survey, our needs survey.
Yes.
Ooh, yeah.
That one's good, yeah.
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 Gonna highlight so many things.
Alignment with the needs survey.
We can always bring up more stuff.
Yeah, I mean, what they said,
Council
what they
will have
said in
some-
our meeting is you can attach other documents to show work that's been done, like the needs survey, yes, send it to us.
I'm just playing the devil's advocate, but when you're talking about highlighting the opportunities that exist in smaller communities, that could work for or against you. Because that can highlight that there's perhaps a bigger need in the larger communities where it's really, really
Yeah.
expensive, because really, there's only 3 small communities in Metro Vancouver. There's Anmore, Belcarra, and
Yeah.
Bowen Island,
Lions
and
Bay.
Lions Bay.
Yeah. I
So,
think
you have to be careful how you approach that is all.
the way I was thinking of approaching it is the needs analysis will show that there's a whole bunch of people in Berlin who need this kind of housing.
Yeah.
And because there are no housing anywhere else until you're 20 miles away,
Exactly,
they don't have any opportunity.
yeah.
Whereas all of those other places you mentioned, I haven't, done an analysis with the maps, but there's all kinds of places over in the eastern part of the region where people who live in, who want to work in Belcarra, could get a place in Port Moody.
All right, we can leave it at that. I mean, we don't have to get everything in there. At least we'll get everybody stimulated and thinking about things. So.
I'm going to ask one more question about the
Yes.
permit application fees. If we leave those out for municipal projects,
Yeah,
okay, is this somewhat similar to a municipal project? It's certainly a municipal priority.
Actually, we haven't, because there was a recent, water treatment plant, recent council decision where we actually are charging the permit fees, but just exempting the deposit. Which is,
Okay.
no, do something like that.
but that's not to say you can't waive them. I mean, it is.
We have to be careful
council's
with this
ability
because-
to waive, yeah.
We don't want to put ourselves into a commitment that turns out to be.
I mean, I guess, it's like in theory, council could grant, like, we could give them a grant that matches the revenue, right? Which I
Yeah.
guess how we would do it is if we waived it, we say, okay, you give us this and then we'll pay
Yeah.
it back. And it's like a
Yeah.
paper thing, and council could do that, but we would need a council motion,
Yeah.
for it.
Okay, we gotta sort of move on,
Yeah,
we gotta get out of here, so.
Yeah.
Well, this at least gets it forward, it gets it to council is gonna be,
Yeah, council.
see the direction the whole thing's going,
Yeah.
unless somebody's got something really essential that they think that should be in here.
The fourth point isn't making sense to me. They identify the opportunities that
Yeah,
exist.
take it out.
I take it out. The other ones make sense.
Yeah, okay.
I want to be reaching.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Is everybody okay with that?
I'm just gonna kind of be on the bottom one
Yeah.
where it says, let's get rid of or deposit. I thought about that further. No matter who builds, we would want a deposit because you want to make sure that they comply with all our bylaws and
Yeah.
stuff. And if you require landscaping or whatever, you've got to make sure they
You
do
know what,
that.
it's a no-cost item for
Yeah.
them, so.
Because we get the deposit back anyways.
Yes, yeah.
And we waive it for ourselves because we thought either way we're on the hook.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, I mean, for ourselves, it makes sense to waive it, but for any external party, it doesn't.
Okay, great.
Can we vote?
All right, so, I'll move it.
Second?
The second to Maureen, and any further discussion, all in favor? There we go, it's unanimous, thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, folks.
All right,
There you go.
so, and then that concludes all of section 5.1. Got a recommendation?
Yeah.
New business, community use of the community landscape park and children's center request. Mayor and our chair. Okay, so, yeah. Both, the Bowen Children's Center has come to us for looking for some land, some community lands to build an I think it's the after-school facility. And then there's been some talk about the skate park. Now, as we enter into that conversation, I mean, obviously, these all want to be fairly close to the school, because it's an after-school thing here. And there was, I believe, as far as I can recall, that the Dome Children's Center was in conversation with School District 45 for a piece of property here on the actual SD 45. So that is something that, we can pursue and see if that was still, and there seemed to be some good reception from West Van School District. So that would be interesting if we could put them in there. The skate park, the thought was it would go somewhere in here, which brings me to the thought that, the community center perhaps is gonna go in here. We're gonna find out real soon which way it goes, so we won't have to be guessing anymore. But I really like the idea of getting some land around here. Now, I know this is zoned for housing and stuff, but I would really like to secure some land around here for future expansion. And I think it's gonna be a very important factor when it comes, if the community center, if we do get the money from the feds, the community center, we go to referendum. If we could say, yes, we have room for expansion for the community center. And,
So you're saying that the skate park
could be in that part of the expansion, yeah.
I'm not clear on who is proposing the skate park facility.
I don't know what's behind that.
Who brought it to
Um,
attention?
Well, it's been floating out there for a long time. John Stiver and, who else is in there? Rod. I've got this sort of semi-group trying to push it, and they've talked to, people that
So
build
it
it.
came via Shauna, right?
Yeah.
So are you saying, Gary, that for the future expansion of a community center, right now we'll build a skate park on it, and then one day it might become a new building? Is that what you're saying? Or
Yeah, or, whatever we want, if we want to, the rec component of it be expanded, or if we want to put something on that end of the building, that we actually have the land, so that we don't, we don't all of a sudden, because we want, you go back to the community campus deal,
Right.
when they talked about, well, at that point in time, and the children's center kind of got dumped out of it somewhere, but the children's center had a little part in the community campus, and then there was a community center, and then there was some housing down here, and other areas in here, so I would really like to see us sort of put a thought into, securing some land around it, if in fact the community center does go ahead,
I need to understand the land a whole lot better, because we
Yeah,
put some zoning there for some multifamily housing along.
yeah,
the
it's
ridge.
just up in there.
But when I was looking at the cross-section,
Yeah,
the things that we looked at here, it drops off like crazy.
oh yeah, if you look at that, yeah.
Because I was looking at the contour lines, trying to figure out how actually would you connect it here, and you connect. I didn't realize, oh, that's cool, it's cool.
Yeah.
This is where the land is flat. If you go
That's
here,
right, oh yeah.
you're dropping off a cliff.
Well, just
And you're
to
getting
decide
down
where your
to
finger is a little
here,
bit
where
further
you go.
down.
Yeah.
So this is, I don't know where the housing goes, but it's
There's some
right.
flat land, you have to look at the top of.
Yeah.
But it's just a thought that I'd like to take forward. I mean, obviously, I can't think of where else in the community lands it would go. It would have to be, if the skate park would have to be, I think, an integral part of the community campus, I would think. But maybe we can put it down in some of the other area there that's a little steeper and build it in there.
I would like to see something in writing from
Yeah.
the Children's Center and from the proponents of the skate park,
Yep.
so that I can have a better understanding of what
Yeah.
we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Because right now.
No, it's all just really vague, but I just think that that's somewhere that we should be thinking about, going forward. Obviously, the skate park's very expensive,
Yeah, I guess I.
$100,000, but maybe
kind of-
somebody will come up and decide it. But I think it's really good to have the skate park for the teens on the island, because there's nothing for them on the island.
Could they go on the old library lot?
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
looking at that too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Makes more sense.
and it's near the Children's Center.
Yeah.
But Lot 2 is such a valuable chunk of land, it's so incredibly well situated, but tricky because it's, got obvious access problems and it goes up and down a heck of a lot. So I'd want to do the same sort of exercise we were talking about Lot 1 before we commit to anything other than the
Oh, yeah.
community center.
Well, and I think this is a conversation we should have, obviously, with our engineer and that sort of thing, and just so he can look at the land and say, well, this is usable, this isn't usable. And I'll also get to the children's center and say, re-look at that conversation you had with School District 45 about that, because they seem to be quite willing to accommodate something over there.
It would be great if it could go on their land.
Yeah.
It seems like after school care,
Yes,
like
yeah.
a natural fit.
Yeah.
I know, some of the challenge for area 3, where it's zoned for townhouses, is just in terms of timing, it's like, so the community center plan is like the servicing, they would service the community center and they would bring services to the end of that community center site to tie into the next one.
Yeah,
Right, so it's nice at that point, you know, okay, if something was gonna go beyond their servicing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Versus if it's, you know, we don't get the grant and it doesn't go ahead, well then they're rebuilding back there and their service, you know, they're bringing the servicing in
and that sort of changes everything.
it. Yeah.
There's no question about that. So that, I agree with you, Maureen, and let's
Who's the
let's just
action
make, yes, please.
Who's gonna be at
I will.
this one?
I will.
Busy.
Just we'll get more information in a letter of intent from both those groups. Something we can take to the bank, you know? And does everybody have any other questions about that part of it? I really do think that we should get some more land for the community center, but we can talk about that.
Yeah, I really agree, because it's short-sighted to sort of say,
Yeah.
this is the community center.
This is it,
that's
that's all it's gonna be. And, you know, sorry, Dennis, I interrupted you.
Yeah, you know, for example, Tunstall Bay, that has been hosting the water aerobics
Yes.
stuff, is now shut down
I know.
to the users, and, you know, and there's a lot of interest in that, you know, and squash courts and, you know,
Yeah.
a variety of
Yeah.
things that can grow out of this.
Yeah.
And we need to have, preserve some area for that to move into.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah, swimming pool, I mean, we're not gonna put an Olympic-sized swimming pool in there, but if,
No.
you know, we can do something quite a bit smaller. You got something there, Steph?
I think we're,
No, if you got something that is
oh, just an action item?
just an action item?
Yeah,
just a-
just- Oh, do you want to recommend a resolution?
No, it's fine. Just
Yeah,
an
I
action
just
item,
said that
so-
you are going to reach out to BCC and
Yeah.
skate park group and let them know that you would like some letter of intention.
Yeah, letter of intent, sure, that's good.
Letter of intent.
Yeah. And 6.2, we're gonna move into this closed meeting. And the recommendation is the Mayor's Standing Committee, Community Lands move to a closed meeting pursuant to section